So the question is calendar versus Gregorian calendar.
So I mean, it's let's just go Google it, right? I'm just gonna say Java calendar. Okay. So here's Oracle documentation for Java calendar. And so this is a class, but the class is abstract. You cannot create instances of this class. It's an abstract class which apparently has some data in it. But to create the actual calendar, you need to use the concrete class, right? But as it tells you here at the top that it's that it implements a number of interfaces and conveniently it makes the calendar comparable. So you can use Gregorian calendar and sort items or objects of the Gregorian calendar class in a container, right? But still, I think computing the differences, it's much easier to do it with dates. And to get the date, you need to just say get time, and it'll give you the date object from the calendar. Okay, I guess we can try moving on. So we're about to wrap up this business related to dates and calendars. In terms of the presentation, we really did well. We have just a few more slides to go. So let's take a look at the helper class, the date format. So remember, at some point we printed all of this, right? We printed conversion, essentially a built-in conversion of the date to a string, and it comes out like this. And that's one thing, but clearly we may want to format it more in a more readable and more usable form, more common form. So this is why we have the date format class, and it converts date object to a string using various formats. So if you have the calendar class, you could be extracting, just like I did in my example, extracting the year, the month, and the date, and of course you can extract an hour and minute and seconds out of there and use your common format. But date format simply spares time not to write any custom code, because what it does is that it does two things. It does formatting of dates and times, which is nice, right? And you need to say, and in addition to that, it also gets date and time combination. You can also get two specific fields, which we were going to see the formats. Basically, there are three formats. There's short format, there's medium format, long, or a full format. So there are just those choices. So let's see. With respect to constants, so those constants are referred to as styles. So the short style just for the date gives you this, but if you change your locality, the month and day may be flipped. So in many localities, the day is printed before the month, right? So that locality may flip, but this is the short format. The medium format goes to name the month for you and even use a comma in your locality and then use the year. Okay, so use the 4-digit year, just like that. Okay, fine. And finally, the long is pretty much the same, but uses the fully spelled month, right? So if you need something that says 31 December 2010, you really have to use the calendar because you can then say, this is the way I want to construct it. But if any of these formats do satisfy your needs, and sometimes you don't even have to use the calendar instance of a class, and then you can just use dates and date formats, and you can just kind of get away with these formats, and that's fine. Now, similarly, the styles, short, medium, and long, equally apply to the time formats, and they will look like, 12 a.m., 7:30 p.m., and the long format here will give you also the time zone, right? So the time zone is important because, of course, remember the time zones, there's a whole different bunch of serious things about the time zones, because the time zones, what time zones change is the way the standard time is computed with respect to the daylight saving time, which is a summertime, I believe, and also the winter time, whereas we add and subtract hours, and it happens differently in different time zones, and it's just another, and it varies from year to year. You know how we make those changes from daylight saving time to winter time, and vice versa on different days. Which is like, you can turn on the news and they tell you, don't forget to change your clock next weekend. But if you compare it this year and the year before, it may look different. So there are rules for different time zones when this happens. So that's just another box of, additional headaches if you need to deal with that. But nevertheless, right here you can see that you can actually display the time zone. Okay, so these are the formats. Okay, now remember, we start with date format. I'm just going one step backwards by saying, give me an instance. So the date format object is immutable, just like a string, and it says I'll use one of these 6 methods to get an object. And these are creator methods, which are static methods. So we'll see an example in a second, right? So we just do that, and once you got your instance, you just say format and you pass date. So let's do this, right? So let's do it here with our date. So we wanted to say date format. Right? So let's say DF. We don't say new date format. That's just not the way to do this. Instead, you say date format dot get. Let's do date and time instance, right? Date and time instance. Date and time instance, and we will specify what? Let me just pick at one of these constants right there, so I don't have to. Let's see. So let's just use like let's start with a short, I guess. Okay, short. And since I picked date and time, I need to provide 2 constants, one for the date and one for the time. So here we go, date format short, date format short. Both are short, right? So we do that. Then NetBeans actually has imported it for me already. I never said anything to do it, but it sort of like unambiguously figured out that what I'm trying to do is this, and let's print this, right? So if I want to use a date format, something like DF, I say format, which returns back a string, and I'll print it on a separate line here, and I pass my today, which is date object, to this particular method. Okay, so let's run this sample. Okay, and so this is your short format. So right now is February 10th, 2015, 3:04 p.m. There you go, Eastern time zone.